Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by Congressional reporter Virginia Aabram. Virginia, we've had big primary nights. Pennsylvania has voted. What were some of the big takeaways of the most recent primaries?
Yeah, so very, very busy primary night in Pennsylvania. Start off with probably the biggest news was the Senate race. Right now, on the GOP side, we have Trump-endorsed Dr. Mehmet Oz and Dave McCormick, who are running neck and neck. The election still has not been decided. Last I checked, they're running at 31.2% for Oz and 31.1% for McCormick.
Which is within Pennsylvania's half a point recount trigger.
Yes, yeah, so it looks like it's almost definitely heading towards a recount on that front. This was definitely an interesting race. The reason that they're so close may have to do with that Kathy Barnett, and third front runner, kind of came out of nowhere in the last week or two of the race. It really drew a lot of support on that front. And she ended the race with about almost a quarter of the vote. So she probably drew some supporters away from both of them. So anyway, they're stuck in a tie. We don't know who is going to end up winning that.
Democrats have a candidate.
They do, yes. John Fetterman, lieutenant governor, he won pretty handedly over Representative Connor Lamb.
Lamb led to the slaughter.
Yes. So he is going to be facing off against one of those two Republican candidates as soon as they figure out who that's going to be. Governor, as far as the governor's race is concerned, the Democrats side was very easy because Attorney General Josh Shapiro was running unopposed. Republicans had a pretty crowded field. Doug Mastriano ended up winning that, and he was Trump's endorsee. However, he doesn't. There are some people who think that that might not be a super easy race to win. Right. Of course, Pennsylvania is a swing state.
Mastriano was Trump's pick, but a lot of Republican operatives in Harrisburg and also in Washington, D.C. weren't really sure if he would be the strongest candidate for the general.
Yeah, and the Republican Governors Association released a statement on election night basically saying, Mastriano has won. We are definitely not looking forward to any more Democrat control of that state, but they didn't exactly give any ringing endorsement of Mastriano. They basically said, we are going to judiciously allocate our resources and we'll let you know. So, yeah, that pretty much sums up, that sums up Pennsylvania pretty well, I think.
So how has former President Trump's endorsements gone? I mean, he's certainly played in a lot of races, and we've had some candidates seem to win, most of the time, but there have been some high-profile losses.
So as far as the governor's races are concerned, obviously he pulled out a win in Pennsylvania. In Idaho, however, there's a really interesting situation where the sitting lieutenant governor, Janice McGeachin, was running against her sitting governor, Brad Little. Both of them are Republicans. McGeachin aligned herself with Trump. He endorsed her, but she did not win. In fact, Little had a pretty big margin over her in that primary. And then in North Carolina, we have Madison Cawthorn, who is a pretty controversial freshman member of the House of Representatives, very young, very scandal-prone. And Trump's backing in that race did not end up being enough to secure him another term in the House. He was beaten in his primary.
But on the other hand, in North Carolina, you did have the Senate primary, and Ted Budd, the winner of that, was the Trump-endorsed candidate, and they really kind of cleared the primary field for Budd.
Yeah, so it can really go, if the candidate is strong plus a Trump endorsement, that seems to really be a winning concoction. Though in Pennsylvania, of course, there were two very strong candidates, and then a third candidate as well. So that was a little different, but yes. So next week is going to be another interesting window into Trump's influence in the party with the Georgia elections. So in Georgia next week, we'll be seeing the Republican primary there, where Trump has endorsed David Perdue to run against Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp is a Republican governor, but he got on Trump's bad side by refusing to investigate the election fraud claims in Georgia.
So the former senator then jumped in to try to primary Kemp and has Trump's endorsement because he's sort of supporting the election claims, and that's going to, but it's a race where a lot of the polling has suggested Kemp's pretty far ahead.
There's also some more interesting things with endorsements there. Sarah Palin has endorsed Purdue.
Right, which you've written about.
Yes, and Trump endorsed Palin, so
Right.
that's kind of one side of the Republican coalition, I guess. But then former Vice President Mike Pence has endorsed Brian Kemp and will be rallying with him, I believe, right before the primary. So
It's a pretty big thing
Yes.
for him to be doing. It's a pretty big sort of gesture of independence from Trump.
yes, it is. Obviously, they're more in the same wing, same ideology than not, but those election fraud claims really have gotten in between Trump and his vice president, and then that is showing up in the Georgia race.
Thank you, Virginia. You can read Virginia and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.